If they come and work with us, they're going to have a big impact on the world.
The chess champion of Brazil works for us.
You know, I came from a generalist, like primordial ooze of nerd.
Get to it fast. Right here on the Anycast. Make it strong, make it last. Right here on the Anycast.
I'm sitting in Nashua, New Hampshire. Been a long-time New Hampshire resident, born and raised here. The backstory is that in the late 90s, I had a friend whose parents were running what we would call today a managed service provider, right? A PC shop, and they were, performing services for local IT services for local businesses. And this guy told me one day about, what it takes to build a dial-up ISP. And I got really interested in what he had to tell me. And I was like in high school at the time, and I said, I'm going to go figure out how to get a job at an ISP because I think this is really cool. Like being online is very cool to begin with. I already had some AOL dial-up account or something like that. I think I started with AOL. And I'm like, well, what does it take to build an ISP? And, as 14, 15-year-old kids started putting together a resume and put it out to a couple local ISPs, and really none of them called me back except for one. It was this guy, his name is Gent Cab. He's still in the business today. And at the time he ran Metro 2000 internet services. And he was like, yeah, come check it out, right? Come see our ISP. And, this was in Manchester, New Hampshire, big mill buildings. Manchester's on a river, so there's a history of, fabric manufacturing and shoe manufacturing. All those mills used the water power from the river. But so now, now these mill buildings, you can rent space. You used to be able to rent space in them dirt cheap. So that's where Gent had Metro 2000 internet services. And he invited me up to check it out. And I remember being so excited to go see what this ISP was all about because they had a T1 line. Ooh. And I was like, Jen, show me the T1 line. I can't wait to see this thing. Right? And he points to a piece of plywood on the wall, and there's a little RJ48X jack. And he's like, well, that's what it is. And it was the biggest letdown in the world. I was expecting some fat cable on the wall. But anyways, got the start in the industry, working dial-up technical support for a local internet service provider. Jen was a fantastic mentor, and I learned a lot about network design, network engineering, various protocols, very, very hands-on learning experience, and went off to university and met up with the founder of DynDNS.org, a gentleman by the name of Tim Wild, and decided that I wanted to do something a little bit bigger than the ISP, and jumped over to DynDNS.org in the same role, technical support.
Today, the internet is this refined version. It's notwithstanding that it's chaos. It's like a refined version of what there was in the early and mid 90s. But I remember just, trying to figure out how things worked, and everybody was like, oh, you go read Avi's BGP tutorial. I didn't even look. Does it still exist on the internet? If people Google?
It's on my webpage. Although I know videos. I need to find some Nanog videos. So we've got the Boardwatch articles. We have some PowerPoints, although I was embarrassed to see BGP 101 is 300 slides or something. So, but I came from a generalist, primordial ooze of nerd that we came from before people specialized. And so I knew what a /32 was, or I guess I called it an IP address. And I was looking at this, I posted to the May East Tech mailing list, how do I get peering? And Bob Gibson calls me. It's it's a secret. I will indoctrinate you into the society, but you must not tell anyone. I'm like, fuck that shit. So, I'm like, NLRI, why don't you just say IP addresses? And, it was just self-referentially worded. And I don't know why. Well, I do know why. I guess by the time I did BGP, I had already done a leased line FAQ from Eskimo.com had a leased line FAQ, and I was like, that needs to be about 3 times longer. So I asked them permission. I made it longer, and then people started calling asking for T1s. Now, a lot of them were not in Philly, so it was not that helpful. But uh, so now we call that content marketing.
I was going to say
And
that sounds like you invented content. So hold on. So
top
you
of
invented the internet. You invented content marketing. This is very illuminating.
I invented a C program that looked like a BVS to get people into the into the internet back when you'd have to explain what the internet was. So you just say 4,000 line chat board, and people are like, "Oh my god!" So
Amazing.
IRC, look at that. And then the BGP stuff. I was just like, I remember having these epiphanies. I'm like, why don't they explain this shit? It's like the reason IBGP is so frustrating is because there's no loop detection. The reason EBGP advertises everything as well because they were just wrong in terms of how they designed it. But like there's some things and you go to the wizards and they're like, oh yeah, of course everyone knows that. I'm like, it's not in the fucking docs. And the docs are written. They say the NLRI is blah 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 blah, and that was before MPLS, right? Even so,
Right.
I was just like, well, this is pretty stupid. Let's just document that. And then,
Right.
I was like, okay, I have my own company, and so let me just publish my configs, and people can see. Now, I was a little bit on the wrong side religion-wise because I like confederations because
Right.
it's sort of like observability, right? You could see the internal flow of your pops in the AS path. So I was an early observability fan, but if you could embed it in BGP as opposed to like loopbacks and route reflectors and stuff like that, it's like, okay, yeah, I guess it's more, I don't know,
It
whatever.
scales.
People do it. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it scales better, but we had a small enough infrastructure at net access. So yeah, I fell
Right.
into it. No, I didn't have any mentors saying, be long-term greedy. You will do well by doing good, like the Tom Lehrer song, by luring people in and making them think that you're nice. So in my case, it was just like being an entrepreneur. Sometimes the pressure builds up, and I'm like, I can't stand that this is so confusing. I must explain it.
Well, so that you get clearer, right? Like when as soon as you have to teach something, it like
Yes, of course.
helps solidify your
Yeah.
ideas, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone was like, again, I remember someone asking me, why is this IBGP stuff so complicated? And I'm like, let me think about that. I was like, wait, there's no loop detection. And then I went to the wizards. I don't know if it was Dave Rand or Alec Peterson or someone was like, yeah, everybody knows that. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
it is known. Well, I didn't know it, so let me document it. So I try to tell people now, you may think that, you're an idiot because you don't know this, but you need to ask, please say foundational questions, not dumb questions. But, one of the great ways if you're early in career, well, to demonstrate that someone should hire you is just document your learning process because it will not make you look stupid. It'll make you look actually curious and intelligent. Julia Evans has done that. I don't know if you've seen her zines, but like she does it on, Linux networking. God help us, DNS, which I still is like an arcane art where I like wave chickens over my head and call Rob Seastro, and I'm like, what the hell?
How do you find sourcing talent in those countries? Like what markets are you in?
We are in Brazil, Mexico, Colombia, Chile, Peru, Argentina, Ecuador, Guatemala, small, Puerto Rico, Guatemala, and Costa Rica. Biggest team is in Brazil. So we have a different strategy. What we did is, first of all, rule number one, stay away from the big cities. If you want to do anything in Latin America, there are big companies are doing this. One of the big companies that we know in the same city as us, we are in a city called Uberlândia. It's in Minas Gerais, in the center of Brazil. When you look, it's very 8 hours drive from Sao Paulo, in the center. This is a farm town, except some of the top schools, technical schools, and a very large private company called Algar is a telecommunications company, and another company called Cargill, I think it's a US company, is based right there. So what's our strategy? We go find a city, must be small, must have a good school. Why small? Because I can, by paying them a good price, bring people from big cities to do small city, because everybody wants to kind of get out after COVID. They want to no longer deal with the traffic, going to the office. Of course, we have I know you are 100% remote, I believe. We are 100% remote. We were 100% remote in COVID for one day. The rest of the time, we couldn't be because of the type of the work we do. How can I be remote if I have to be in data center, do the physical work? My NOC needs to be in one place. But this is our strategy. Go find a small city where people want to live. Uberlândia is number 1 city or number 2 city in whole Brazil in the living quality, safety, living quality. So what we did is we went to this place. We established some relationship, good relationship with the schools. Actually, we had some students coming up yesterday. These are the 4th year students, 5th year students ready to graduate. We get them when they are young and then invest in them 2 years, 3 years with no expectation, right? We expect that they are going to be with us 5 year, 10 year. And our idea is to invest and teach them. Some people that we find, for example, is like the chess champion of Brazil works for us in our NOC. You know, she's a brilliant girl, very smart girl. When a problem happens, the way that she's thinking and solving problems are very interesting. Finding these people is very hard. English is the easiest part, okay? Just for the record. For a lot of my friends, they say, but how do they speak English? English speaking is the easiest part. The hardest part is to teaching them what they need to know in, you know, the training them and taking time, because it's young people. So, you know, we are hiring youngest people we have in the team is now, this is legally allowed, by the way, it's 16 years old. 16 years old. Apprentice, we call this, you know, in Brazil. When you have 35 employees or 30 employees, you have to have some, you know, apprentice that will come and try to learn the job. And I think my CTO, Epaphras, whom you met, he was also apprentice in a telecom company, ended up being the CTO.
We have built an incredible team at Netbox Labs. We had, and NS1 continues to have, an incredible team of technologists. And the reason is that we've painted a picture for the future of the world and the vision that we're pursuing. Whether with Netbox, it's you know, this virtuous circle of investment in this really impactful open source project and a future for how networks are going to be built and operated and automated, or whether at NS1 it was, you know, we're the front door to 25% of the internet or something like that. We've painted a picture for talent for why, if they come and work with us, they're going to have a big impact on the world. And in to give you a few examples, just at Netbox Labs, we have an incredible engineering team. And, you know, I think when I think about some of the folks in our engineering team, why are they working at, you know, this, you know, relatively early stage startup, when, you know, some of them are coming from working for some of the largest infrastructures and networks in the world, you know, building automation tech and building source of truth technology and the like, getting paid 10 times more than they can at Netbox Labs. It's the impact. That's why, right? Like they really value creating technology for their peers that is used by such a large community and has such a big impact on how networks are being operated and automated and so on. So, you know, that to me is sort of the secret.
How to network your IP. This is different, another round. So much more to talk about. Gonna aim to satisfy with help from CacheFly. Get to it fast. Right here on the Anycast. Make it strong, make it last. Right here on the Anycast. The Anycast podcast, brought to you by CacheFly.